Okay. We're gonna lag? Are we gonna work? Because I am pushing bandwidth right now. Holy. I am freaking pushing bandwidth. How much bandwidth do I need to push, dude? Like this stream doesn't look, it doesn't look good. Like why? Why does it not look good? What if I rewind a little bit? Does it look fine? Why does it look so pixely? Dude, I'm pushing 52 megabytes to YouTube right now. What is happening? Why does it look so pixely? Because if I'm looking at it on the the device that's streaming it, and it looks good, but the stream itself does not look as good. Like, why does it look? It looks pixely. Okay, I'm I am really pushing bandwidth now, and it's streaming, and it's not lagging either. Yeah, it's like it. It must be YouTube just limiting what I can actually push through. I see like where it's starting to lag a little. I don't know. Let's see. All right. So HEVC. That's what I'm using. I'm just trying to figure out why it's blinding.
H.264.
All right. I need to know. I'm pushing through full res right now. So if I go, second.
Or H.265. Which codec should you use for rendering your videos for YouTube? To answer this question, in today's video, we are going to look. This doesn't always translate into the best possible quality on YouTube, because this highly depends on the resolution that you're rendering in. Now, before diving right into the results for today's video, I want to mention that this test comes from Modern Warfare Warzone 2, the free 17 something something. DaVinci Resolve supports rendering using H.265.
This is
Moreover, the improvements by going from H.264 to H.265. By the way, natively, it's not possible to play back HEVC videos in Windows, after which you'll see that the video H.264 and H.265 on your resolution. You can check the rate. So I was a bit skeptical and therefore decided different. I was actually getting this graph and was very confused. So H.265 was far worse than H.264 by a pretty significant margin actually. So I was a bit skeptical and therefore decided to re-record a 1-minute segment in Warzone 2 once again at 1080p, rendered it at different bit rates in H.264 and H.265, uploaded it to YouTube, re-downloaded everything and analyzed it, and that's what happened. So once again, definitely not what I would have expected. So I re-rendered the H.265 once again, the exact same clip, uploaded it again, and then it looked like this. So essentially what I'm thinking happens is that the much more compressed H.265 video simply doesn't contain enough information to provide a good H.264 re-encode on YouTube. Also, this isn't just a random outcome of the VMAF computation, as when I visually compare the H.264 render to the H.265 render after downloading the clips from the H.264 render to the H.265 render after downloading the clips from YouTube, you can see that the H.264 is actually vastly superior in terms of visual clarity compared to the H.265 render.
Okay.
Now, frankly, I find it a bit concerning that at 1080p, it seems to be a little bit random as to whether you're getting good or bad quality on YouTube when you upload your H.265 videos in 1080p. So with having said all of this, my conclusion would be that if you have to render your videos in 1080p, then I would actually not recommend to use H.265 and use H.264 instead. However,
A pretty cool new update. If you're a YouTube streamer and have a modern or really modern graphics card, this video is for you. The YouTube RTMPS beta is now complete and they've finally rolled out full support for HEVC and AV1 streams to the YouTube platform. What does that mean? Well, YouTube streams are going to be a lot higher quality at the same bandwidth if you're someone who creates content with a relatively new graphics card. That's super nerd speak, but let's pull up OBS just so I can explain what exactly is going on. When you're recording, you're probably using something like MP4, H.264, and the same for streaming. That works great. That's powered by your graphics card. If you have a CPU in your PC and you use that for encoding instead, you're using X.264. However, HEVC, otherwise known as H.265, and AV1 are newer codecs that support much higher quality at the same or even less bitrate, AV1 especially so. To use HEVC with a graphics card encoding your video, you'll need a GTX 1050 from NVIDIA or better, or an RX 5000 from AMD or newer, and the Intel Arc and iGPUs should all support this. That's for H.265 HEVC. But for the brand new AV1, if you have a powerful new graphics card that supports this, is pretty good, but you can double the quality at the same file size, if not even more, with H.265, and with AV1 you can get even further benefits as long as you have the newer hardware for it. If you're just using your CPU to encode streams, you can still use H.265 and reap the benefits for a very minimal performance impact. If I open up my settings in OBS Studio, head across to Stream, make sure that you have YouTube RTMPS selected, as well as the primary or secondary server, and when you do so, you'll be able to streaming, you can select some video encoders here. Let me put up a new one just so I can edit this. In the video encoder options here, we have NVENC H.264 and NVENC HEVC. This is the new codec that we're allowed to use on YouTube now, and if you were to keep your same bitrate options, say 6000 kilobits, you should notice a huge increase in quality. The same goes for using QuickSync HEVC, which should use your Intel iGPU or Intel graphics card in order to compress it, and of course if you have an AMD graphics card, card, you'll see something like AMD HWH265 or HEVC, meaning hardware, which is the same as what we have here for NVIDIA. However, you'll notice a few AV1 options. Now, I don't have an RTX 4000 graphics card or newer, or AMD RX 7000 graphics card or newer, so I'm not able to use AV1. I can still technically use it with my CPU choosing one of the AV1 options here, but I'd highly recommend against that. You're going to be wasting tons of processing power creating a super hard to encode codec just so you can kind of gain quality. Even with a separate streaming PC, I wouldn't recommend using AV1 with CPU at all, at least for now. However, you can use the H265 option, or X265 if you have it, to use your CPU. Even with a separate streaming PC, I wouldn't recommend using AV1 with CPU at all, at least for now. However, you can use the H265 option, or X265 if you have it, to use your CPU instead. However, if you do see NVIDIA NVENC AV1, QuickSync AV1, or AMD HW AV1, I'd highly recommend you choose those over the HEVC, as you'll get even more quality with even less bandwidth. If you do see NVIDIA NVENC AV1, QuickSync AV1, or AMD HW AV1, I'd highly recommend you choose those over the HEVC, as you'll get even more quality with even less bandwidth required. Now, assuming you choose H265 or AV1, there's basically nothing else you need to change. You'll pretty much immediately see a huge quality increase on YouTube, especially when you're using lower bit rates, such as 6000 kilobits for example. You could probably push it even lower and keep the same quality you had before, lowering the stress on your internet connection if you're someone with a really slow line. That's a huge advantage of this, less data used, and if you're on a capped connection, it's even better for you. Now, with all of that being said, will you, the viewer, see an increase in quality on YouTube? Well, probably. If you're watching streamers who don't have a 100 megabit line and are completely saturating YouTube servers with some crazy number, you'll definitely see a quality increase. You'll definitely see a quality increase if they stream games like Rust or anything with tons of foliage, leaves, etc., even Tarkov. You'll know that those games are super blurry and blocky as there's tons of stuff going on. Using HEVC or AV1, you'll notice a huge increase in quality at the same bitrate, with practically no performance impact on the streamer's PC as long as they're using hardware to use it, such as new graphics cards. The same goes for HEVC, but they'll get an even further bump if they used AV1. If you're a streamer watching this video and you have one of these options, great. But if you don't already know, you can get even more quality out of YouTube practically for free just by tweaking one of your OBS settings. As you probably know, you can stream at practically any quality to YouTube, 1080p, 2K, 4K, but what you should do is always stream at 2K and above, even if you're on a 1080p monitor. YouTube will essentially take whatever you give it and compress it using the same settings for whatever. Whether it's HEVC, AV1, or H264, they'll have the same bitrate standards and limits set on their own internal system.
Oh.
Watching this video and you have one of these options, great. But if you don't already know, you can get even more quality out of YouTube practically for free just by tweaking one of your OBS settings. As you probably know, you can stream at practically any quality to YouTube, 1080p, 2K, 4K, but what you should do is always stream at 2K and above, even if you're on a 1080p monitor.
2K and above.